change your evil ways, baby. Before I stop loving you, you got to change, baby. And every word that I say is true. You got me running and hiding all over town. You got me sneaking and peeping and running you down. This can't go on. Lord knows you got to change.
This pop festival could go down as one of the smoothest, well-run pop festivals of its kind anywhere. Thousands of young people are already here on the scene at the Dallas International Motor Speedway, and thousands more are streaming in the gates every minute. The theme, if there is any theme to this pop festival besides music, seems to be peace and tranquility, at least for the majority of the young people here. Thousands of young people are camped in the area, and they seem to be having a good time of it. It cost a minimum of $19 to attend the three-day event, and the money-minded promoters of the International Pop Festival are taking every precaution to make sure no crashers get in the gates. Mr. Ripley, what do you think of hippies and people like that are attending this festival?
Well, it's hard to tell. This is my first experience with people of this type. Of course, this is something new to the community of Lewisville, and we're just kind of on the standby wait and see. It's just kind of a surprise element with us.
Are you against hippies and long hair and this kind of thing?
Well, I have my convictions, yes. Not against per se, but for reasons which are very personal to me. I do hold private reservations as pertains to long hair and so forth.
No one really seems to know just what to call the young people who attend these massive festivals. Hippies or yippies just simply doesn't describe everybody who's here. Most of the young people, however, would rather be known simply for what they're going to do for the next 3 days, and that is 3 days of enjoyment, 3 days of music out in the country.
Funk Railway.
This part of the field out here is the only thing that looks the same as it did when we were out here in '69. None of these freeways, 121, those overpasses, all of this, the tree farm over there, the canals that cut through this property, none of it was here. As a matter of fact, I don't think those big power line back there was here at all either. And as far as we could see, we could not see a building of any kind from this site. It's almost a contact high, what they say, you know, coming out here and seeing the location where all this happened. It's not as pretty as Yasgur's farm by any stretch of the imagination, but it was certainly a great place to do this. We had probably 35, 36 bands that performed over a 3-day period, and a load of these bands had turned us down in the beginning and were begging for time on the festival afterwards when they sniffed out that Woodstock was a big star maker. And the group that I'm talking about now was the band that was known at the time as Grand Funk Railroad, later shortened to Grand Funk. And we let their manager know that they were certainly welcome to come out and do an opening set every day, but we didn't have any more money to pay them, and we didn't. And we set some plywood up in front of the stage for them, and they came out and opened every day and were a million-selling record act shortly thereafter. The thing that really got to me was to have been editorialized against by our hometown newspaper, the Dallas Morning News, who wrote a scathing column the day before the show entitled "Nausea at Lewisville." Those were our potential customers that went down the drain with that. It was like a county fair or something, was what it was, you know, except the whole attraction was music. Well, at the end of the first day, Mayor Sam Houston called a kind of emergency meeting of a couple of the organizers. He said none of his constituents minded the noise or pot use or any of that stuff. What they were mostly concerned about, and what he was very concerned about, was nude bathers. He thought this thing was going just amazingly well. And he said, "Boy, I got to the office this afternoon for a little bit, and there's 100 calls in there from little old ladies and folks that just couldn't get their head around the idea of skinny dipping." We couldn't find any place that was large enough and rural enough, I'll say. You know, we didn't want to have it in a stadium or in town anywhere, but we had to quickly locate a field, a lake, any place that we could do it. And we got into cars and just started traveling around the area as fast as we could, and we passed the DIMS Speedway. We didn't want to have it in the stands there or anything. And we had this big, magnificent field bordered by a forest and a creek. It's where Gary put up the watch out for the snakes sign.
On the first day, it's kind of tight, you know. Like the vibrations are strange, and like people are leery, you know, like everybody's kind of strangers. But by the time they leave here, I'll tell you, they'll all be together.
Does the music have a message for you? Does it tell you something? Or is it just loud noise?
Very much so. It tells me it has an expression of freedom, of not being tied down, and the rhythm is just something wonderful.
Well, usually you feel pretty good, and you can get up and boogie or dance around, enjoy it with your friends, touch them, feel them, have a good time. Just whatever you want to do, whatever comes naturally. Take your clothes off.
That comes naturally.
Sure, you weren't born with clothes.
For the next 10 years.
Sure. It'd be beautiful because, like...
I mean, would you rather a place like this than a hospital?
For anything not really serious, sure. Because this way, like, especially with freakouts, when you have a thing with freakouts, it's best if you can keep them around their same kind of people, because then they're used to seeing you, and they don't, you know, it's easier for them to relate to that. And like, we're doing a lot of things with some people who have been doing this for a long time. Like, I've been doing it for about a year now, working with people. You just rap to them. And we got a guy who's been doing this for 10 years. He's been working with people with dope and stuff that's over there. And you get them talking to each other, and they end up helping each other a lot.
In other words, you're saying that has as much to do with the cure as some of the aid material.
Sure. Well, it's not so much really a cure. It's the idea that they got scared, probably, or they saw something about themselves that they didn't like very much, and they didn't know how to cope with it. So you rap with them about it, and they come to realize what's actually wrong with them and what's actually bothering them. And most of them that we've had, like, was at the beginning of a trip. They went in there, we rapped with them enough that they really got to their heads in a better place, and they're out here having a good time. You know, that's why it's not serious at all. There's been a few serious ones, but they're all right. They end up just, calming them down, and they go to sleep. And they wake up in the morning, and they're a little dazed and a little tired, but they're all right. There's no real problems.
It's not really often when a group of people can get together and really, like, do their thing. Whereas if they want to light a joint, they can do it without the heat coming around and saying, "Wow, we're taking you away, you're busted," And
no busting out here.
Well, I guess there could be, but I doubt it seriously. And like, the people are here because, they're their type of people.
And how does this apply to outside living when you get out of these pop festivals? Go back to LA, where you're from.
Well, it makes you kind of sad that, like, people in every day can't be as nice to each other as they are at these festivals, Like, a lot of these people will go back home, and like right now, if they were driving along the road and they saw some guy hitchhiking, they'd stop, But when they go back home, they'll go back into that little shell that everyday life puts them in, like everybody's a stranger. And everybody shouldn't be a stranger. You know what I mean?
Miss Janis Joplin. Please stand. Come on.
If there's something you need.
Will you welcome the band from the Americas, Santana!
Now we would like to do a little number for you and dedicate it especially from the group and I to you. And of course, I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first time I've been on a festival and been there for the whole 3 days. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I would like to say to you, you've been beautiful. You have been beautiful. You have been beautiful. I would like to add just a bit, if I got a minute to say so. You're going to make the people know around the world that people can get together other than in Woodstock and still have a good time together. You're going to let everybody know that. Thank you. Thank you. You've been, as I said before, you've been so beautiful to us.
Tell me about what it was like going there that first day.
Crazy. Didn't know where to park, and so the first day I ended up parking on the side of 35.
Well, they parked in the center median. They parked everywhere they could get a car. And it was that way all the time.
There was like 120,000 people. Lewisville at the time was what, 9,000?
No.
Had one red light.
I was amazed at how many people that were there and how everybody got along and shared. I mean, it was really very interesting.
I'm sure from the backside it looked like chaos, but you know, compared to Woodstock, I mean, it didn't rain, so it wasn't a mud fest. They weren't having to reschedule acts, and everybody got along. Everybody was very mellow. You could leave your stuff on the ground and come back and be there later. Nobody was going to steal it.
I was part of the security. It was horse security. We rode the back fence behind the stage area. Every once in a while, somebody would be trying to sneak in, and we'd go out and tell them you can't do this, and lead them over to the racetrack, and they'd haul them to the front.
Patrol the dam, though, with my binoculars to make sure none of them was going to drown. But we had hundreds of boats out here from local people.
If you ask me, the bigger problem was the old lecherous men out in their boats trying to catch a view through binoculars. So.
I was not one that got naked down at the water. I did go down there with a washcloth, or I don't remember, somebody's t-shirt or something, and, you know, tried to clean up a little bit, but no, I did not get naked and get in the water. So if my kids ever see this, I didn't do that.
We didn't have a bathtub around anywhere, and we weren't really dirty hippies, okay? We got the idea to bathe in the lake. And of course, you know, we only had one change of clothes, most of us, so we'd strip down and jump in there and skinny dip. And meanwhile, there was a reporter standing, interviewing a married couple, and they were talking about how devilish we were and the terrible things we were doing. And the whole time, and he mentions this in the article, the whole time, they're passing back and forth a pair of binoculars.
booking acts at the same time that Woodstock was, and so we had a lot of the same people, and we had people they didn't have, they had people we didn't have.
Texas Pop was kind of a different lineup from like Woodstock. At Woodstock, you saw a lot more folk. Didn't see that at Texas Pop. It was much more, the biggest part of it was blues and rock blues. A lot of it was my playlist, Nas, Janis, Led Zeppelin, like Sly and the Family Stone, it was funk, or it was psychedelic, like Sweetwater, Santana, which was kind of a Latin jazz fusion. I mean, it was a who's who for me.
Cool story, bro.